Hey guys, what's going on? Brother John here. Welcome to my channel. I hope all you guys are doing well. You like my funky hat? My thinking cap. Okay, it's all good. Anyway, I was watching a video of Pastor Dow. Though many of you know I am not a Christian anymore. But I like Pastor Dow's videos when he's talking about the economy and being aware of the government and how they're really messing up things and bringing about awareness and encouraging self-reliance, self-determination, and being prepared, all that kind of stuff. So because hey, we are all never going to agree on everything about everything. Alright, and doesn't mean that we have to be enemies, even though we disagree on religious things. We can still benefit from one another. So, that being said, he put a video out and he made a statement which I asked him about. He was saying a lot of these mega church preachers like T.D. Jakes and TBN, people at TBN and some others he was mentioning were informants for CIA. Now, granted, these guys are charlatans. The T.D. Jakes, the Creflo Dollars, and they're, I mean, even as a Christian, I mean, to me, it was blatant to me that these guys were just, milking the sheep. But I never heard anything about it being CIA agents. So, I just wrote comments asking him, does he, have any proof about this? Oh, excuse me. Somebody, though, responded to me and said to Google Clergy response team. And if you want to Google that, you'll see a couple articles. There is an article that came up from a news station. And it was going back to when the town Katrina, when things were happening in Katrina. Apparently, the government was asking for help from the clergy to kind of calm down the population. They were actually disarming people during Katrina, right? So the government apparently was asking. They asked the pastors in the area to help calm things down. And see, this is what I'm saying, my friends. This could get very tricky and very fast. And this is where Scripture can be used to your demise, for your bondage. I'm going to put a couple videos down. You can at least see the news report and everything else, but I couldn't have yet find anything about them being CIA operatives. But anyway, it did pique my interest because in the news story, the pastor was using the infamous Romans chapter 13, that many Christians love to use this scripture to say you need to obey your government, you must obey your authorities, they are appointed by God, you must. Romans 13 says that, right? 13. Let's read Romans 13. I'm going to read from the New American Standard because I think that's one of the more accurate translations. We can go King James, but Romans 13, every person is to be in subjection to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those which exist are established by God. Therefore, whoever resists authority has opposed the ordinance of God, and they who have opposed will receive condemnation upon themselves. That's verses 1 and 2. Verse 3, for rulers are not a cause of fear for good behavior, but for evil. Do you want to have no fear of authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same, for it is a minister of God to you for good. But if you do what is evil, be afraid, for it does not bear the sword for nothing, for it is a minister of God, an avenger who brings wrath on the one who practices evil. Therefore, it is necessary to be in subjection, not only because of wrath, but also for conscience sake. For because of this you also pay taxes. For rulers are servants of God, devoting themselves to this very thing. Render to all what is due them, tax to whom tax is due, custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. And then it goes on to verse 8. Owe nothing to anyone except to love one another, for he who loves his neighbor has fulfilled the law. For this you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet. For there is any other commandment is summed up in this saying, you shall love your neighbors as yourself, which I always say that's where it really comes down to. But love does no wrong to a neighbor, therefore love is the fulfillment of law. But it's kind of weird to me, because if we're going to take this scripture and we're going to apply it to all governments, right, it almost becomes contradictory. Yes. Now let me ask you this. It's easy to say this when you're in the United States, that you should obey your government, even though we can bring up countless, right, examples of how our government lies, steals, and murders innocent people, right? And this is the government you're supposed to submit to. But what about Nazi Germany? What about Hitler, Stalin, Lenin? What about those governments back then? Are you going to tell me that as Christians you should have, if you were in those times, you would obey those rulers? What about the people who disobeyed the King of England and the crown, right, to start this country? Were they not disobeying them, right? So where do you draw the line with this when you're going to use Romans 13 to say we must submit to all authorities? And if you don't, the authorities, apparently to the scriptures, has every right to bring upon wrath upon you because they're servants of God. I don't know. I don't think Romans was written by Paul. I think maybe it was all just a conspiracy. The Bible being, God knows who it was written by. But I'm sure, and it's funny, this is called the Book of Romans, perhaps this book was written by the Roman government. Perhaps this book, these passages, were used to make sure, let's get the religious folk, and let's get them in order to submit to the government of Rome. Because Rome, hey, they need it nice and order, right? When the church was finally established in the 300s, right? At the Council of Nicaea, when they brought, Constantine wanted, let's get all these bishops together, right? Because we got to come to agreement on something, because there's too much division here, and I, Constantine, have no control of these people. We got to establish some kind of religion, one religion in a way. So they got all these Christian beliefs, all these bishops together, and had the council. Let's put the book together, and this is how you got most of the Bible now. So a lot of people want to praise Constantine as their hero for Christianity, but maybe it was more about government control, and that's the same thing here. It's the same thing. Politicians do it all the time. Will use religion. They'll go visit churches and speak at churches and speak to religious groups, right? pander to the religious, say they're part of a religious organization, mostly Christian, right, to get that Christian vote. No different than when it happened. Same thing was happening in Rome, and I think that was the same thing with Constantine. It wasn't even about him being a Christian or seeing a vision of a cross. This was about political control. This was about having influence and power over the people at that time. Same thing was going on here. This is what they did in Katrina too. And I no doubt if there was problems that are going to come up in the future, they will ask for the assistance of pastors and clergy. Tell your congregation, yeah, calm down, relax, peacefully give up your guns like they did here, just so we can dominate. And they'll use the religion and the clergy will use scripture to control the masses, because the masses are a bunch of dumb sheep. They don't think for themselves. They don't read their Bible in context. They don't even go search where things come from. They just take at face value these charismatic preachers that are up there they see on TV. They take at face value what they're saying, that their words must be words from God, because they're the ones on TV getting all the money, looking all good and all that stuff. And the people just blindly watch them, no different than people just worshiping movie stars. Oh God, that's my thoughts. Take care, everybody. Namaste.